Akkadian. Akkadian was an ancient Semitic language spoken in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq and parts of Syria and Turkey, from around the 3rd millennium BCE until the 1st century CE. Despite its decline as a spoken language, Akkadian continued to be used as a literary and scholarly language for centuries, particularly in the realm of religious texts and legal documents. However, by the time of the 1st century CE, Akkadian had largely ceased to be actively spoken, marking the end of its use as a living language. Ancient Egyptian. Ancient Egyptian was spoken in ancient Egypt, dating back to around 3100 BCE and lasting for over 3,000 years, until the end of the Roman period in the 4th century CE. It is classified as an Afro-Asiatic language and is considered one of the earliest written languages, with evidence of hieroglyphic inscriptions dating back to the early dynastic period. Ancient Egyptian evolved over time, with distinct phases such as Old, Middle, Late, and Demotic Egyptian. Hieroglyphic writing was the earliest form of writing used in ancient Egyptian, consisting of pictorial symbols representing objects, sounds, or concepts. Despite its longevity and cultural significance, ancient Egyptian gradually declined as a spoken language following the Arab conquest of Egypt in the 7th century CE. Today, ancient Egyptian is considered an extinct language, known primarily through the study of ancient texts, inscriptions, and linguistic analysis. Ancient Greek. Ancient Greek was the language spoken in ancient Greece from about 1500 BC to about 300 BC. It is the ancestor of the modern Greek language. It was the language of classical Greek literature, philosophy, and science, and it has had a profound influence on Western civilization. Ancient Greek is typically divided into several historical periods, including Mycenaean Greek, Hellenistic Greek, and Byzantine Greek. The Mycenaean Greek was the earliest attested form of Greek, spoken during the Mycenaean civilization. Then comes the Classical Greek, the most well-known period of ancient Greek, spanning from the 5th century BCE to the 4th century BCE. Following the conquests of Alexander the Great in the 4th century BCE, Koine Greek emerged as the lingua franca of the Hellenistic world. Hellenistic Greek refers to the Greek language as it evolved during the Hellenistic period and the subsequent Roman period. With the establishment of the Byzantine Empire in the 4th century CE, Greek continued to be the dominant language of the Eastern Mediterranean region. Burgundian. The Burgundian language, also known as Old Burgundian, Langue Bourguignonne or Arpitan, was a Germanic language spoken in the Kingdom of Burgundy during the Middle Ages. It is considered a Romance language and was closely related to Old Frankish and Old Dutch. Interestingly, traces of Burgundian influence can still be found in modern place names, particularly in regions where the Burgundians once settled, such as parts of France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Coptic. Coptic is the final stage of the ancient Egyptian language, written in the Coptic alphabet, a modified form of the Greek alphabet. It was spoken in Egypt until the 17th century CE and is still used as the liturgical language of the Coptic Orthodox Church. An interesting aspect of Coptic is its unique script, the Coptic alphabet, which is based on the Greek alphabet with additional letters derived from Demotic Egyptian script. Cornish. Cornish was a Celtic language spoken in Cornwall, England. It became extinct as a community language in the late 18th century, but has undergone revival efforts since the early 20th century. Cornish has a unique connection to the landscape of Cornwall. Many place names in Cornwall are derived from Cornish words, providing a direct link between the language and the geography of the region. For example, names like Penzance, Bodmin, and Tintagel all have Cornish origins. The decline of the Cornish language can be attributed to the Norman conquest of England in the 11th century, where English language became increasingly dominant. By the late Middle Ages, Cornish was in decline, and by the 19th century, it was largely extinct as a community language. Dalmatian. Dalmatian was a Romance language spoken along the Adriatic coast of Croatia. It became extinct in the 19th century, replaced by Croatian and Italian. Dalmatian was a Romance language, closely related to Italian and Romanian, but had its own unique characteristics. Dalmatian is known for being one of the few extinct Romance languages with a relatively rich written record, including legal documents, poetry, and religious text. Eyak. The Eyak language is an indigenous language of Alaska, specifically spoken by the Eyak people of the Copper River Delta and Prince William Sound regions. It belongs to the Athabaskan Eyak Tlingit language family, though Eyak is considered an isolate within this family, meaning it has no known close relatives. Sadly, Eyak is now considered extinct, as its last fluent speaker, Marie Smith-Jones, passed away in 2008. Etruscan. The Etruscan language was spoken by the Etruscans, a civilization that thrived in central Italy from the 8th to the 3rd century BCE in ancient Italy. It is poorly understood due to the limited surviving texts, and it became extinct with the Roman conquest of Etruria in the 1st century BCE. The Etruscans used a writing system that is known as the Etruscan alphabet, which is derived from the Greek alphabet, possibly through the Ubykh Greek alphabet. The Etruscan alphabet consisted of 26 letters, which is similar in number to the early Greek alphabet. However, the shapes of the letters and their phonetic values were distinct from Greek. Elamite. Elamite was spoken in ancient Elam, located in what is now southwestern Iran. It's one of the oldest known languages in the region, with origins dating back to around 3000 BCE. Elamite used its own unique script, which is still not fully deciphered. The conquests by various empires and the assimilation of Elamite speakers into these larger societies likely played a significant role in the language's disappearance. The last known records of Elamite date to around the 4th century BCE. Gothic. Gothic was an extinct East Germanic language spoken by the Goths. It is known primarily from the Codex Argenteus, a 6th century manuscript containing portions of the Bible translated into Gothic, translated by the bishop Ulfilas in the 4th century. It is the oldest surviving literary work in any Germanic language. After the fall of the Gothic kingdoms in the 6th century, Gothic-speaking communities became increasingly marginalized and assimilated into other linguistic groups. Additionally, the spread of Christianity and the use of Latin in religious and scholarly contexts contributed to the decline of Gothic as a spoken language. Hebrew language. Hebrew is a unique case among extinct languages because it was successfully revived and is now spoken as a native language by millions of people in Israel and around the world. Ancient Hebrew, the language of the Hebrew Bible, was written in an abjad script. Following the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, Hebrew ceased to be a spoken language in daily life. It was replaced by Aramaic and later Yiddish and Ladino as the vernacular languages of the Jewish people. However, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Hebrew underwent a remarkable revival as part of the Zionist movement's efforts to establish a Jewish homeland. Eliezer ben Yehuda, a Hebrew lexicographer and language revivalist, played a key role in this revival by promoting Hebrew as a spoken language in everyday life. Modern Hebrew, also known as Ivrit, is the result of this revival process. Hittite. Hittite was an ancient Indo-European language spoken by the Hittites in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, around the 17th to 12th century BCE. It's one of the oldest attested Indo-European languages. The decline and extinction of Hittite are believed to have been gradual, likely due to a combination of factors such as political changes, invasions, and cultural assimilation. After the fall of the Hittite Empire around the 12th century BCE, the language gradually lost prominence and was eventually replaced by other languages spoken in the region. Luwian. Luwian was an ancient Indo-European language spoken in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey, during the 2nd and 1st millennia BCE. It was used by the Luwian people, who were part of the broader Anatolian civilization. Luwian is known from cuneiform tablets discovered in the region and from hieroglyphic inscriptions found on monuments. Luwian gradually declined and became extinct around the 1st millennium BCE due to various factors, including the expansion of other languages and cultures in the region, such as Greek and later Persian influence. Latin. Latin is an extinct classical language that was spoken in ancient Rome and throughout the Roman Empire. It evolved into the Romance languages in Europe for centuries. During the Roman Republic and the Roman Empire, particularly from the 1st century BCE to the 3rd century CE, Classical Latin, which refers to the form of the language, was used. It was the language of famous Roman writers and orators such as Cicero, Virgil, and Julius Caesar. Ordinary Romans, however, spoke vulgar Latin. Latin is also the official language of the Vatican City and is used in the naming of species in biological taxonomy. While Latin is no longer spoken as a native language, its influence can still be felt in many aspects of modern life. Manx. Manx, also known as Manx Gaelic, was a Celtic language spoken on the Isle of Man. It became extinct as a community language in the 20th century, but has since been revived to some extent through language revitalization efforts. The decline of the Manx language can be attributed to several factors. One significant factor was the cultural and linguistic assimilation that occurred over time, as the Isle of Man came under English influence. Minoan. The Minoan language is a bit of a mystery because it's undeciphered. It was spoken by the Minoan civilization on the island of Crete around 2000 to 1450 BCE. Its extinction is likely due to the decline of the Minoan civilization, possibly due to invasions or natural disasters. However, without written records, it's hard to pinpoint the exact reasons for its extinction. Mycenaean Greek. Greek language spoken in the Late Bronze Age around the 15th to 13th centuries BCE. It's the earliest attested form of the Greek language and is preserved in inscriptions found on clay tablets, primarily at archaeological sites in Mycenae and other parts of Greece. The language was recorded using a script called Linear B, which was deciphered in the mid-20th century. Through the decipherment of Linear B tablets, scholars gained valuable insights into the Mycenaean society. The language went extinct due to several factors, including the collapse of Mycenaean civilization around the late 12th century BCE. Old Church Slavonic. Created in the 9th century by the Byzantine missionaries Cyril and Methodius, it was based on the local Slavic dialects in the Greek alphabet. Old Church Slavonic played a crucial role in spreading Christianity among the Slavic peoples. It's considered the first Slavic literary language and was based on the dialect of the Thessaloniki area. As for its extinction, Old Church Slavonic gradually declined in everyday usage as vernacular languages evolved and gained prominence. It was gradually replaced by the emerging Slavic languages, such as Russian, Ukrainian, Bulgarian, and others. Old Norse. Old Norse is a North Germanic language that was spoken by inhabitants of Scandinavia and their overseas settlements during the Viking Age, roughly from the 9th to the 13th century. It served as the lingua franca of the Norse world and was written in the runic alphabet. The decline of Old Norse as a spoken language began with the Christianization of Scandinavia, which led to the adoption of Latin for religious and scholarly purposes. By the 14th century, Old Norse had largely evolved into the modern North Germanic languages Icelandic, Faroese, Norwegian, Danish, and Swedish. Phoenician. Phoenician was a Semitic language spoken in the ancient Mediterranean region by the Phoenician civilization, primarily in cities such as Tyre, Sidon, and Carthage. The Phoenicians are credited with creating one of the earliest alphabets, known as the Phoenician alphabet, around 1050 BCE. This alphabet consisted of 22 consonant letters. It used an alphabet that was later adapted by Greeks and Romans. As for its extinction, the decline of Phoenician can be attributed to various factors, including the conquests of Alexander the Great, the spread of Hellenistic culture, and later the Roman conquests. Sumerian. Sumerian was the language of ancient Sumer in Mesopotamia, modern-day Iraq. It is one of the earliest known written languages, dating back to the 3rd millennium BCE. Sumerian became extinct as a spoken language around the 2nd millennium BCE, but remained in use as a literary and religious language for centuries. Sumerian language had its unique writing system, known as cuneiform. Cuneiform consisted of wedge-shaped characters pressed into clay tablets using a stylus. It is one of the earliest known writing systems, dating back to around 3200 BCE. Slovincian. The Slovincian language, also known as the Liba-Kashubian language, is a West Slavic language spoken by the Slovincians, an ethnic group in the historic region of Slovakia along the Baltic Sea coast, primarily in the area around the town of Liba, in Poland. It is closely related to Kashubian, another West Slavic language spoken in parts of northern Poland. Slovincian is often categorized as a critically endangered language rather than extinct. Sanskrit. Sanskrit is an ancient Indo-European language that originated in the Indian subcontinent around 2000 BCE. It served as the sacred and scholarly language of ancient India, used in religious rituals, philosophical texts, and literature. Sanskrit's grammar and phonetics were standardized by Panini in the 4th century BCE, making it highly structured and precise. People stopped speaking Sanskrit mainly because regional languages became more practical for daily communication. Additionally, the influence of foreign languages further diminished the use of Sanskrit in spoken contexts. Tasmanian languages. The Tasmanian languages were a group of languages spoken by the Aboriginal Tasmanian people, the indigenous inhabitants of the island of Tasmania, located off the southern coast of Australia. The specific identity of the last speaker and the exact Tasmanian language they spoke is not definitively known. However, one of the most well-known Tasmanian Aboriginal individuals in recent history was Truganini, a prominent Aboriginal Tasmanian woman, who is often referred to as the last Tasmanian or last full-blooded Tasmanian Aboriginal person. Ubykh. Ubykh is an extinct Northwest Caucasian language that was spoken by the Ubykh people in the Caucasus region of present-day Russia and Turkey. It is considered one of the most complex languages phonologically. Ubykh is an agglutinative language, meaning that words are formed by adding affixes to roots to indicate grammatical relationships. Ubykh is notable for its large consonant inventory, with around 84 distinct consonant phonemes. Ubykh ceased to be spoken as a native language in the early 20th century, with the last fluent speaker, Tevfik Esunsi, dying in 1992. Yana. Spoken by the Yana people who lived in north-central California between the Feather and Pitt Rivers in the Sierra Nevada mountains, Yana belonged to the Hokan language family, which is a group of Native American languages spoken primarily in California. Yana had a relatively simple phonological inventory compared to some other Native American languages. It included consonants such as stops, fricatives, and nasal sounds, as well as vowels. Yana became extinct in the early 20th century. The last known fluent speaker of the language, Ishi, died in 1916.